them, but I had that issue with email with the client when the site launched, and I'm trying to figure out. So basically, I know if they have G Suite or Microsoft 365, that it's a smooth transition. I just copy the MX and all the DNS, and it works. It's when it doesn't use one of those and it's used as like their host or something that I have a problem. And I'm trying to figure out how possibly looking at the DNX, the MX records could tell me. And I thought that I could do that, but some of them, like for example, mine, it says Google on the MX record. So I know that's G Suite, but I looked at some others that I know are G Suite and they're not Google. And then I looked at some that I know are Office 365 and there's something completely different. So I'm like, oh, geez, that was because I wanted to be able, because sometimes when you ask the client, they don't necessarily know and understand your question.
Yeah.
So they might answer it and it might not be the correct answer.
Well, let me show you what I learned. I don't want to steal the thunder of your speaker, but if it's the same speaker I heard, this is the website he introduced me to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now I've been to that.
Okay, and so we were because we're talking about email, we want to go to MX record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I know, for example, Reliable Acorn is on Google, on G Suite or
Mm-hmm.
Google Workspace. So I can do.
Yeah. It'll always be G Suite for me.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so yeah, yours is Google, so
Google.
that's right.
Okay, now here's my email, and Curious Ants is not.
Okay.
So let's see what it says. So
protection. Okay.
That is, so what do you know one that's running off Outlook or Office 365?
I don't right now. Yeah, try this. And see, try LANEKARLO, and that's it. .com. That's where I used to work. So, okay. So here's the thing, and this is what I thought because I looked them up. So this is the attorney's office I used to work for, and I know that they have that. But I think Reflexion is their, I don't know the word for it, but it's some in between that they're able to like spam check stuff.
Okay. So here's one I know happens to be
Outlook. Okay. See, yes.
So it sounds to me, and if this is a very anecdotal study,
yeah,
it sounds to me that if it's 365, Microsoft 365, the MX under normal circumstances is going to say Outlook.com.
Yeah, I think unless the thing is, a lot of financial people that use 365 have an additional security layer.
Right.
And those are the ones, which is the one I had given you. And I knew Reflexion, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but when I had email there, that was a thing that we had to go to, and it would go in and spam check stuff.
Yeah.
Or you know what I'm talking about. It was an extra security layer that they needed.
Okay, yeah, this is like a ransomware kind of thing.
Yeah,
So I think a tool like what's my DNS.net can help us narrow this down.
Yeah.
Because it will give us a better idea. So if we see Outlook, we know it's Microsoft.
We know it's Outlook. If we see Google, we know it's Google. If we don't, question further.
Otherwise, then you probably need to figure out with the client before you do it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
I
that's
just think they need to be questioned further.
Yeah.
Okay.
The story you told about, hitting the redirects and breaking the email is not the first time I've done that. I've done that too.
Yeah.
And maybe part of the process of transitioning domains is to run this on the MX record before you do it, so you can kind
of. The problem that I had was I think, I don't know, I can't remember how much I had detailed gone into you about before, but where I ran into the issue is that the previous host, like they had a whole cPanel there, which they still have. And when it broke, I got it to come into the cPanel. cPanel was getting email, but it would not then go back out to Gmail because they were getting it in the host and then sending it to Gmail. And we
They
just
probably were in Gmail getting into the mailbox that way.
yeah. And so the thing is that I don't like that because it's not as secure as Gmail, G Suite. And it was more expensive. So I talked to the client, we did change to G Suite, which made it easier. However, I did learn that there is evidently a thing where some people can have signed up for free personal Google accounts with a business email. And when that happens, you can't set up your Google Workspace account. You have to go. I mean, it took forever to figure out. I now know how to do it.
Yeah.
But that made it complicated. Normally, like setting up G Suite, I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that, no problem. It was difficult, but it was because of that. So I had 2 issues on it. So anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, I think at least this process will help us narrow it down.
Yeah.
To be able to ask more questions.
Yes, definitely.
Which gets us less likely to, because sometimes when we're doing this stuff, it's about minimizing risk, never able to cut it out completely.
Oh yeah.
But that's a tough question. I think.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when that site went live. It went live pretty quickly. I used on that one, I used Cloudflare and Cloudways. And it was rather quick getting it live, but it was then the email mess. And I will say dealing with the previous host was not fun.
Yeah. So side note, Yusuf, I think just to summarize what we just talked about, we're talking about how to determine where the email server is in order to do a site migration.